Hello everyone. As you know, I've been doing concurrent teaching now for about a month, and I have made this video about what has worked and what hasn't worked in my room and to answer some of your questions. It should be noted that this is going to be a very slightly different process for everybody who does it. I have talked to other teachers who are currently doing this. I have read blog on blog on blog about tips and tricks for how to do this well. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that even in our school, we're probably all going to do this a little differently because a lot of it comes down to your teaching style, how comfortable you are with certain types of technology, and the classroom that you are teaching in, i.e. grade level and how much responsibility your kids can handle, even if you're in an upper grade level. And so with all of that in mind, I'm just gonna show you what has worked in my room and what really hasn't worked in my room, and maybe give you some tips that I think could be helpful no matter what scenario you are using. So let's get started. First of all, we should talk about room layout. So in my room, we have laid it out so my kids are kind of in an arc around my OWL camera. This is my personal favorite layout. It works well for my students. Everybody can see the screens that I am using to present on, whether they're on the Meet or they're in the classroom. This works well for my room because I am always on the move, walking around through the kids, getting down next to my newcomers who don't speak English, so I can direct them to where we're going on the page quickly and still make it back to where my OWL is without much delay. And I like to use my smartboard, but not necessarily in the way that we usually use our smartboards. So let's talk about the tech I use in my room. In my classroom, I use all of my different tech devices at different points in my day and or depending on my lesson. For the most part, I focus on my 2 Chromebooks. That old Chromebook is always hooked up to my TV, just like they suggest you should have it. That is where I have the Meet up and I can just see the kids. I have joined the Meet there, but I have hidden my tile so that you cannot see myself in the Meet. So I only see all of my students and my presentation. Now, I'm not always presenting. I'll get to that later. But when I am presenting, I'm able to see what I'm presenting and I'm able to see what they can see on the OWL at all times. So this is why that Chromebook is only signed in and not connected to any cameras or microphones. It's literally just for visibility of me seeing the children and me seeing how my OWL is doing. My second piece of technology that I use every single day is the new Chromebook. Now, this one I have situated on my old Chromebook cart. And on that Chromebook cart, I kind of use it as my personal cart now. And I have my Chromebook on it. My OWL is connected to my Chromebook. This allows the OWL to be further out into the room and feel more like it's in the middle of the students, thus giving the students at home more of an in the classroom feel. Contrasted to if they had been at the front of the room, like we had been originally told to do with the OWL. If I connected it to my desktop or even to my smartboard, it would be near the front of the room, and that gives the kids a more jilted feel of the room and doesn't quite make them feel as included in the class. Because I'm using that Chromebook as my OWL, it also has to be in the Meet. So this is my second join in the Meet. We are now in the Meet 2 times. This is really the max that I like to be in the Meet. I present from that Chromebook so to keep myself only 2 times in the Meet. So this makes it simpler for me, simpler for the kids. There's not a lot of extra bubbles running around. I can see only myself in the OWL view and the presentation should I have it, but it's all from that same new Chromebook. When do I present? Well, I only present occasionally. So no matter what I'm using, whether it be Jamboard, Nearpod, or Pear Deck, are the 3 things that I use the most often in my room, I have the kids split screen it. And so when the students are working, they have the Meet up where they can see my OWL, and then they have whatever system I'm using to present to them the information. So whether that be Jamboard, I send it through the Meet, and then they open the Jamboard and they split screen it. So they pin me in the Meet and they can see my nice and big, and then they have the Jamboard next to it. Or when we use Nearpod, they'll have that on the second screen. And then this works the same if you use Pear Deck. This is my preferred method so they can see me and I can see them at all times. The reason I use Jamboard over my smartboard, even though I love my smartboard, the OPS system is my favorite of my technology in my room. I want to be clear. I love that thing. But the reason I do not use my smartboard for this is because no matter where the OWL is positioned, even if it's really close to the smartboard, they just don't see it as well. There's a glare with the light on, but no matter how big I make it, they might be able to see it, and they might even be able to follow along if I had to do something very quickly, because I have used it that way before. But as a whole, it's not as efficient. On my smartboard, I have it as extended from my desktop. So my desktop is on, and it's on extend mode, and then my smartboard is functioning as that second monitor of my computer. And so I have my Jamboard open on my second monitor of my computer. You could also work it in duplicate. Both ways will do the same thing. So basically, my smartboard is now functioning as my desktop computer. So then I have the Jamboard open there, and when I write with the smartboard marker using the Jamboard tools, the students at home see the Jamboard moving just as if I were doing it in my Meet if we were all virtual. This has been the most time efficient strategy of all of the different presentation modes I do. However, there still comes a time when we have to present, right? So for example, anytime I want to show a video in my room, I have to present, right? So I present for that time being. Sometimes I present, like I said, from my new Chromebook. Sometimes I present from my desktop. Like I'll just walk over there and hit present because that's where the Pear Deck's open anyway, so I might as well just present from that one. I don't join the Meet again. I want to be clear. I don't join the Meet again. I use the present feature. And I don't join a third time. Yes, it looks like a third Meet if it wasn't presenting, but since it's presenting the entire time I'm in the Meet, it does not come up as a third bubble. It is just a presentation. Somebody asked in a list of questions if the presentation little box thingy can ever go away. No, that's a Google issue. That's not something that I can fix. They have extension fixes for it. However, just as Linda and Tyler have said before, I would caution against using a lot of third-party extensions as they can have bugs, they can lead to viruses, and also they're just not always effective, especially when Google's constantly updating, which as we all know, they constantly are right now. It doesn't bother me that much because I can see all of my kids even when I am presenting. On my TV, on my Chromebook, both. I can see all of my students even when I'm presenting because I only have 12 online at a time. No matter where the presentation is coming from, I am able to see all of my virtual students at all times on all of my screens that I have them up on. Another reason that the Chromebook on the cart thing is a blessing is that I can view the chat faster than when it is in the back of my room. One of the biggest issues with this is being able to see the chat. There are two solutions for this that I have found so far. First of all, like I said, having my Chromebook up on that cart and coming back to check it. When I hear that little, I come back over and I check the chat, and it's easy for me to immediately see who said what. The second option, of course, if you don't want to have the Meet open on that Chromebook, or even if you do, but you don't think you can be next to it to check it that quickly, you can appoint what's called a chat monitor. This is one of the things I read about online. I found somebody else suggested this, and I thought it was a great idea for a classroom job. So one of your more outspoken students, somebody who has a quiet environment at home and has no trouble unmuting themselves at any time, I have them read the chats for those students that have those loud backgrounds that cannot unmute at times. And so they will speak up for them. They'll say something like, Sasha says in the chat that she agrees with what Dante said, or Miss Abdallah, Madison said in the chat that she has a question. And so it'll just give me a moment to pause and stop. And my kids have been trained in my room to be speaking when they need something and to not so much do the whole question mark, exclamation point, period thing in the chat. If that is something that you do in your room, you're gonna have to find a solution for this that works for you. But because in my room, I encourage the open dialogue and we just have to classroom manage as that comes about, this has not been so much an issue in my room. The number one tip I have for any type of learning in which there is a camera, virtual learning or concurrent, either one, you need to make sure that you are looking at the camera and not at the students. And I know that that sounds crazy, right? Rule 2 says make eye contact, Miss Abdallah. Well, of course it does. But that doesn't mean that you need to be looking at them because that's not making eye contact when there is a camera involved. You always need to be looking at the camera when you're talking to them because that makes it look like to them that you're looking at them. And I know you're thinking there's not that big of a difference, but check this out. This is what it looks like when you're talking to the TV. Oh my gosh, that is such a good point, Dante. Yes, let's talk about that, friends. Have you guys ever thought about it the way that Dante just said? Oh my gosh, I know, right? Okay, excellent point, Dante. You see, you're not looking at him. Now watch, I'll do the same thing again. I'm sorry, Dante, can you repeat that? That was an amazing point. Did y'all hear that? Oh my gosh. Okay, who has ever thought about it the way that Dante just said? What about you? I know, crazy. Okay, yeah, so I think you get the idea. Look at your owl and it makes the whole experience better for the students. Takes some getting used to on our part, but really it's like second nature to me now. And I've only been doing it for a couple weeks. I'm sure that y'all will pick it up even faster than I did. I wanted to show you some clips of what it looked like when my owl was in different positions in my room. I started with the owl in the back connected to the old Chromebook connected to the TV. This allowed me to only be logged into the Meet one time and then my presentation from whichever device I wanted to be presenting from. And so I started with it back there. It actually was not too bad back there because I had it extended out so it was still in the middle of the students, but it kind of looked like they were in the back middle of the students. And so that did work, and I didn't mind that because I was able to kind of see them while I was looking at my owl. However, bad days happen, and we had one of those days while it was hooked up like that. The Chromebook in the back, that old Chromebook that we all know and love, decided to disconnect from the internet for no reason whatsoever. There was no purpose to it. All of my other devices stayed connected. The kids were still logged in because I could see that on my second login when I logged into the desktop. So the only thing that happened was that Chromebook decided to disconnect from the internet, and it was a mess. Let me just tell you, that day, ooh, hurts to even think back about it. Okay, but that day was a learning experience, y'all. Okay, so we said, oh no, they can't see us. So I took the owl and I hooked it up front to the front of the room where I could hook it up to the desktop how they suggested. Actually, not entirely how they suggested because my desktop was in the back corner of my room and it's just really like they wouldn't be able to see me at all. So I hooked them up through the smart board. So I hooked it up to that and I had them in the front of the room with me. It was a terrible angle, okay? Well, check this out. So as you can see, it looks like the kids are like next to me in the front of the room. I mean, that's where you used to put kids back in the day when they were in trouble. You gonna tell me I'm gonna put them at the front of the room so they can't see the board, so they can't see the smart board, so they can't see the other students well? No, sir. I did not think so. This lasted all of half of one day, and I said goodbye, and I moved on to my next camera position. Okay, so I had another question about breakout rooms. So I use breakout rooms all the time. I asked Mr. Mackey if we could have permission to try out breakout rooms without me in there monitoring, and he said that we could give it a go. So I went for it, and I have been using breakout rooms for weeks. Even when we're all virtual, I still use them and just hop between them monitoring what's going on in the breakout rooms. So I have used them for group work. I have used them for when we play Jeopardy so the kids can discuss with their team and then come back and we answer the questions. And I've used them for students who are finishing tests. Obviously, I put them in their own breakout room for that one. How have I used it in my concurrent teaching model? Well, this is the first week that I tried it is this last week. And so what I did was I made sure every student had a pair of headphones. And all I could do to monitor is walk around the room and see how their group work was going. So we tried this while they were practicing division problems. And so I had their group working on partitioning division problems into easier to divide groups. And so I was able to monitor what work they were doing, how their discussions were going by just walking around the room as if I had been back before the Corona times when we used to monitor group work that way, right? You would walk around the room and just see what was happening. I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know if you have any other questions or you want to talk about anything else in more detail. I tried to keep this brief but still being thorough, so I know that there might be stuff I didn't get to cover. So please let me know anytime and I would be happy to reach out and talk to you about it.